All right, so I'm going to cut the bees.
That's amazing.
There comes a time in every backyard pitmaster's life when they have to ask themselves one question. Do I really need an offset smoker? Today, we're going to take one step towards answering that question. We're smoking St. Louis ribs on the Weber Kettle and on my Dyna-Glo. Can we answer that question today? I don't know, but it's probably going to be delicious trying. Let's get cooking. So, why did I choose St. Louis ribs for this test? Well, because they're a barbecue competition staple, and they're large enough to really test both smokers. Now, I bought a 3-pack so I could compare them and choose the 2 racks that were the closest in size. From prep to rest, these ribs will be treated exactly the same. The only difference is the smoker. First, I remove the silver skin from the back of each rack. Next comes a binder of yellow mustard. It doesn't add much flavor, it simply helps the rub stick. For seasoning, I'm using Bolner's Fiesta pork rub. I'll leave a link in the description below. Both racks get a generous amount. I'm also going to add just a smidge of coarse ground pepper. Then, of course, flip and repeat. And once the prep is done, it's time to light the fires. All right, it's time to get both smokers ready. On the Dyna-Glo, I'm setting it up the way I normally cook, with about a half chimney of charcoal to get things started. Then it's just wood splits for the rest of the cook. You'll notice I'm using 2 foil pans. One catches the embers that fall out of the firebox, and the other sits inside the smoker to help even out the cooking temperature from side to side. Over on the Weber Kettle, I'm building a charcoal snake. It's a simple setup that burns slowly and helps maintain a steady cooking temperature for several hours. For smoke, I'm using a 50-50 mix of hickory and applewood. Since both smokers are using the same types of wood, that's one less variable in this comparison. Now I'm going to add a little bit of water in the foil pans and then set my temperature probes in place, because my goal is to keep both smokers running between 225 and 275 for the entire cook. Once both cookers are settled in and up to temp, I'll put the ribs in at the same time. It took about 45 minutes, but now both cookers are right where I want them. That means it's finally time to put on the ribs. First up, the Dyna-Glo. And since I'm already running the smoker, I might as well throw on a few potatoes for dinner too. And in the Weber Kettle, I'm putting the rack of ribs as far from the heat of the snake as possible. And with both racks finally on, now it was just a matter of letting both smokers do their thing. We're about an hour into the cook, and it's time for the first check. One thing I noticed during the cook was the difference in the smoke coming from each smoker. The Dyna-Glo, burning only wood splits, was producing a thin blue smoke, while the Weber, using charcoal and wood chunks, was putting out more white smoke. Will that make a difference in the final taste? I guess we're about to find out. Now the goal is pretty simple. Keep both smokers cooking as consistently as possible. That means the Dyna-Glo needs another wood split from time to time. And both racks get a light spritz of apple juice and cider vinegar to help keep the surface from drying out. Now over at the Weber, I'm going to rotate both the cooking grate and the rack of ribs. That keeps the ribs centered over the fire and helps them cook more evenly. One feature I really like about this grate is the hinged sides. They let me add more wood and charcoal without removing the entire cooking grate. One more light spritz, And now both smokers are tucked in for another hour. When it was time to check them again, it was more of the same. Rotating the ribs and the grate on the Weber, and keeping both smokers in that 225 to 275 degree barbecue range, which meant adding wood chunks to the Weber and wood splits to the Dyna-Glo. One last quick spritz, then it was back to waiting for another hour. Okay, we're about 3 hours into the cook now, and by this point, the ribs have had plenty of time to take on smoke, so now it's time to wrap them up. First though, I'm just going to check the temp. And it's right around 155, which is exactly where I was hoping it would be. And most people add something to the ribs before wrapping. So I'm going with a little parquet and some honey. Both are used a lot in competition barbecue. Now, wrapping helps to tenderize the ribs, and it also helps keep them from drying out during the rest of the cook. Once it's wrapped up tight, it goes back on the Weber. Since another hour has passed, I'm going to give the rack another 180 and adjust the grate a bit. And then I repeat the same process, of course, with the Dyna-Glo. Now, with both racks fully wrapped, another 60 minutes on the smoker should put them right where I want them, tender enough for the final step. And right on schedule, both racks were probe tender and in the 190s for temp. So they're essentially done. All that's left is a light coat of barbecue sauce and then another 30 minutes in the smokers just to let that sauce tack up. And the hard part's over. And my guest judge, Mike, just arrived. So you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking it's time for an old-fashioned. Both racks are done and rested, and they are ready to slice. Walter is steadfastly at my side. So let's get this out. Looks gorgeous. So I'm going to cut like a 2-rib section for each of us. My special guest for the evening is an expert on eating ribs. That would be Mike from across the street. So there's 1A. All right, so I'm going to cut the B's. Let's move this around. And we have 2 B's. Let's get a closer look here. This is A. Pretty juicy. B. I would say this has a really good smoke ring. Okay. All right, so now it's time to do the judging. First of all, these old fashions are delicious.
They're awesome.
So what we're going to do is judge these by like KCBS, which is the Kansas City Barbecue Championship. I don't know what the S stands for. So we have these little cards here. And what we're going to do is judge appearance, taste, and tenderness for A and B. And our plates have A and B marked on them. And we're going to use a number from like 1 to 5, 1 being bad and 5 being good. And we'll total them up and see what you think. So let's dig in. Appearance-wise.
I hate to say it's kind of a toss-up, isn't it?
Yeah, it is close.
Really want to jump forward to taste here.
Yeah, do that.
Oh, man.
Pretty good little smoke ring.
That's crazy good. To be clear, you don't want me to evaluate the old-fashioned at this point, correct?
good to cleanse the palate.
Is it okay if I change my answer?
Yeah, there's a little eraser there.
I'm gonna use it. That's amazing. I think I'm ready to tally.
Okay.
And it's a close race.
Wow, that is close for you. All right, let's show. I have A getting 11 and B 15. And Mike has A 13 and B 14. A squeaker for Mike.
Quite a squeaker.
So A was the Weber Kettle.
Okay.
And B was the Dyna-Glo offset smoker. It seemed to me that the B rib had more fat to it, didn't it?
And that may have, there was a lot impacting, really tenderness is the only difference that I had on my on my scorecard. So the
tenderness,
that might have
B
impacted.
tenderness was really good.
Yeah.
It was really soft. It was really juicy. Overall, the appearance, almost identical.
Almost identical.
Yeah.
We
It's just,
thought they came from the same.
yeah. And the taste was just slightly better, I thought, on B. You had them
liked
equal.
them both. I felt like B was a little different taste, but I liked both of them a lot.
But yeah, tenderness was the thing.
That was the only decisive thing for me. Slightly, and could be attributed to the fat.
Yeah, I think you might be right. We might have to do this test again.
I'm in. I'm definitely in.
All right, well, we're going to polish off these ribs and the old fashions, have some sides, and I'll come back with you with my thoughts in a few seconds. Well, it'll be less than a few seconds. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, these are good.
Mm.
They're all good.
Yeah, they are good. So, what did we learn from this experiment? Well, Mike scored the Weber and Dyna-Glo in a dead heat, and I gave a slight edge to the Dyna-Glo. But honestly, that could have come down to the ribs themselves rather than the cookers. What surprised both of us was just how well the Weber Kettle held its own. So, if you're only planning to smoke a rack of ribs every now and then, I don't think you need to spend the extra money on an offset smoker. In fact, the biggest difference wasn't the ribs. It was the experience of cooking on each smoker. For example, the Weber, using the snake method, needed very little attention once it settled in. The Dyna-Glo, on the other hand, needed a split every 20 to 30 minutes, along with occasional vent adjustments throughout the cook. Now, neither approach is right or wrong. It really just comes down to the kind of barbecue experience you're looking for. For me, obviously, I'm going to keep using both of these. The Weber's perfect for smaller, everyday cooks when I just want to relax and enjoy the food. And the Dyna-Glo is the one I'll fire up when I'm cooking for a crowd, tackling something bigger like a brisket or a pork butt, or when I just want to spend the day or night tending a real wood fire, which I like to do once in a while. Not in this heat, of course, but one thing I do know, I think this experiment deserves another round. Ribs are only one test of barbecue. I'd really like to compare these two again with something like a pork butt or a brisket and see if the results are the same. Anyway, I hope this video helped answer the question of whether you really need an offset smoker. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat at your local barbecue joint, and I'll see you on the next one. God, it's hot.